Streaming. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Monday night. It's Mount Shasta. Mount Shasta calling. I don't know if my cohort here is on camera.
Oh, no, she's not.
She's not on camera, but you can certainly hear her. That's our dear sweet Lamina, who thinks
Sweet.
very sweet, lovable kitty. Yeah. Well, welcome. This is Monday night. It's the Toltec discussions with Golden Eagle, and it's our Save Humanity Through Collective Consciousness Upgrade meditation. This takes like 3 or 4 minutes. We do this every day, 7 a.m., 7 p.m. This Toltec lineage. We're trying to spread this around the world. I literally mean this. Please invite and tell all your friends that if they want to help anything about the world situation, this method will do it. Okay? So, sit comfortably. Breathe in your normal meditative posture and your normal meditative state. Hands apart like so. You can't see it on some of the cameras. And breathe in. And as you breathe out, turn on your energy and fill the space between your hands. Feel that energy ball accumulate there quickly. And now turn that energy ball in your mind's eye into a vision of our planet Earth. Around the Earth, in your mind's eye, see that glowing pink field that is the human collective consciousness field. And now we're going to send our messages into that consciousness field. God lives. Love is the answer. We are all one. God lives. Love is the answer. We are all one.
We are all one.
God lives.
God lives.
Love is the answer.
Love is the answer.
We are all one.
We are all one.
One more time. God lives. Love is the answer. We are all one. Send a final blast of love energy into the human collective consciousness field. Send gratitude. And then open your eyes, breathe deeply, and re-enter the realm of the physical. Welcome, we have Coyote Ciego watching online. Aho mitakuyasu.
How do you know?
Because he's on Facebook and I can
Facebook.
see the Facebook thing over here.
Alright.
See, this is a new upgrade. It's taken me a long time. I've been doing this gig almost 3 years, and I finally have gotten to where I'm broadcasting on both. I haven't figured it out all from one device, so I'm still challenging that until I steal Gregory away from Coyote. Well, what are we talking about tonight? Should we talk about something Toltec?
Sure.
Anybody want to talk about something Toltec? Anybody in the studio audience at all? Okay. Oh yeah, that's at the. Looking at it, notes. I remember this, but it's the end of the discussion. I got notes that I sometimes follow. In the announcement for today's discussion, I promised you, or at least I tempted you to show up with the idea of how to take over the universe Coyote commented, because he's a freaking shaman. What was that in response to?
I don't
What did I
know,
say?
but I should probably pull up Facebook if you're going to
Yeah,
do this
do it.
because you can't get distracted by Coyote on Facebook.
Well, I'll get distracted by anybody on Facebook, you know. That's one of those, ooh, shiny.
Right.
What are we here for? Yeah, attention. Are we supposed to do something with attention in the Toltec word? I think so. Let me get back on track. The creation or the takeover of the universe works. The ancient Toltec secrets of doing that work. There's a few caveats though. Number one, if you want your universe to be more than just you, you have to work with others. Like it says in kindergarten, when you get mom gets the report card back, does not play well with other children. I think my mom got that once or twice. I blame my mom because she stopped having kids after me, right? So I had an older sister who didn't like me. She was too old. And I didn't have any other kids around to play with for a long time. I didn't know how to play with other children. And you can make a really good case that I still don't.
I wasn't going to go there, but...
I freely admit it. I freely admit it. See, if I were a coyote medicine kind of dude, I would play well with everybody. I would trick them into thinking I played well. But I'm not. I'm a golden eagle kind of shaman dude. And I tell it like it is. Let the chips fall where they may. And mostly they run away screaming. So the caveats about creating your universe is A, some assembly is required. B, the assembly that's required involves work. So right away that eliminates 3/4 of the population. And here's the really crucial thing. You have to know what you want before you start to create a universe. That sounds really simple until you sit down with a blank piece of paper and you're challenged by God after you complain too much about the way things are, and God tells you, okay, sit down with a blank piece of paper, right now, and okay, now design the universe. Oh my, look at the time, right? And then you realize it's not as easy as it seems. Because there's rules. You can do anything you want for your true will, provided it doesn't interfere with the true will of others. That said, if somebody's interfering with your true will, you have the right to set boundaries. So, when we look around the world situation today, well, not today. Let's start 6 months ago, before anybody knew anything about a coronavirus, except those geeks of us who took microbiology in medical school. And think back 6 months ago. So we're almost done with month 4, so that's month 2. This would have been the end of October. Go back to Halloween. When you think about your life leading up to Halloween last year, how many of you were really happy with your life and the world around you? If you sat down a list of things that you felt were wrong with the world and needed to be fixed, and things that were just fine the way they are, which would have been the longer list? Probably the one of things that needed to be improved, right? Yeah, probably. Unless you're one of those rare individuals whose true will is to serve as a bad example to others. I've met a couple. I met, I know this is shocking, I met politicians. I've been in offices one-on-one talking to senators. So yeah, I think there's some politicians out there, and that's their purpose in life. So in that kind of environment, how do we do? Forget the virus. I mean, that's a speed bump on a road that's leading to one of two places. And the turning point we haven't quite hit yet. You have to have an intent of what you desire to create. It has to be specific. You have to put all your energy into it. And what the Toltecs have learned is if you're doing all that with a group of like-minded people all doing it at the same time, the effect is stronger. It's amplified. Oh. My phone over here is saying low battery.
Uh-oh. That's not good.
And I thought I charged it this afternoon. It's an old phone.
So we may lose the
It's
Facebook audience.
at 20%. And I'm not going to try to plug it in. It'll go as long as it goes. Who's online? Anybody online today?
Right now I'm on the Facebook page, and Viento is here, and Lonnie Anderson is here. And then back. Alright, so George G.
George G.
Dennis Brown.
Dennis Brown. Mr. Brown, we appreciate your attendance.
Little Eagle.
Little Eagle is here. Yay.
Patty.
Patricia.
William.
William Rowling. Should we do the theme song?
No.
Okay.
Pilar.
Pilar.
And Viento is in two places at once, so I don't know if he's really here or there.
Oh, yeah, well, he's like the winds of October, right? He moves everywhere. Now, Jean Louise was going to be on tonight. But at the last minute, her husband committed them to go do something. And so I said, well, invite your husband and your friends to join us. They might learn something. And so she said she would watch it later. And so I told her, good, that's license to talk about you. And you can't defend yourself. For anybody who doesn't know Jean Louise, she lives in the Chico area. She's a healthcare practitioner. I think she does massage and energy work. She has the Akadwa. So she's doing good things down there for Chico.
Chico needs good things.
They need her. I know of no place in the world that doesn't, but they need it a little more than most. Every now and then you'll see, for those of you who watch Facebook, you'll see those challenges, right? What are the 10 books that influenced your life the most? What are the 10 music albums that influenced your life the most? What are the 10 movies or the 10 whatevers that influenced your life the most? And everybody's on it, right? So last year I created a challenge that's along the same theme that we're talking about tonight, where I said, this was when a certain occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. was had his pen out a lot last year.
Is that what you call it now, a pen?
From what I heard, they're about the same size. He had his pen out signing a lot of executive orders. And so, of course, many of them, if not most of them, were stupid. I heard there was one that was okay. I wish they were all following the social distancing thing, because that would mean you couldn't have more than 3 lawmakers in the hall at one time, and they could never pass a vote, and it would shut Congress down. So I challenged people to say, okay, what are the 10 things you would do? Let's pretend you were the new occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and you were the one who got to write executive orders. What would they be? 10 orders in 10 days, ready, go. The intent being start, the whole new world, create a new world. And so I put out my 10, and each day I nominated somebody else. These were all people I admired who were really smart and intelligent, and I was expecting great things to come out. I wanted this one to go viral. Of the 10 friends, some of them were students, some of them were academic friends, naturopathic friends, acupuncture friends, shamanic friends, all manner of friends. Masonic friends, did I say Masonic? And so I tried to pick 2 people from each of several categories. Out of the 10 friends I picked, guess how many completed the exercise? Ding, 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 she got the right answer. Ding, 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 0. Nobody.
0.
And I was like, really? Mine were mostly about enforcing the Constitution. A lot of them were. And over half, anyway. And as tempted as I was to put number 10 to be remove all speed bumps, I did. There were other things more important. Not more annoying, perhaps, but more important. So I've been pondering that for about 6 months or more now. More than 6 months, I think. It's like, what does it take to get people to engage? At a level that's looking forward, saying, forget the messed up past, because a lot of it's messed up and needs to go away. What would we like to create in its place? I've seen just a few memes in the last month or two that say, hey, we don't necessarily want things to go back to normal. Why don't we reassess what used to be normal and decide what parts of normal we want to keep and what shouldn't? What shouldn't be kept? So that requires a vision. It requires a change in perspective. It's hard to walk forward when you're looking over your shoulder. And even if you get one of those hats like you wear bicycle riding where you've got the little rear view mirrors right here, you're still not putting your attention forward. Your energy follows your attention. Your chi, whether you call it chi or prana or vital force, it follows your attention, your intent. Who was it? Oh, that's too big of a sidetrack. Never mind. I came across somebody who was recently a proponent of not having an intent and just basically turning yourself into a channel for spirit and letting whatever happens, because surely spirit's smarter than us. Or something to that effect. I wasn't quite sure. And I didn't have an opportunity for a two-way engagement to discuss that. Because if you don't have an intent to project your will into the world, then the world will happen to you. So if you want to create a universe, take over a universe, redefine this reality, this illusion, to get a strong enough signal into the human collective consciousness to do that, requires that we work together. So we divide life up into compartments to make it easy. For anybody who's ever taken any kind of a health class or anatomy or physiology or any higher level medical training, healthcare training, you realize that we have models of the way the human body works based on the scientific school of thought that we call reductionism. We take this big, complex, elegant whole and we break it up into small, manageable pieces. So, I can figure out what goes on in this cell type and in this cell type and in this cell type, and I can figure out a feedback loop between your thyroid and your pituitary. Okay, I got that one. Okay, well now there's a feedback over here between blood pressure and brain oxygen. Okay, I got that one. And we break the body into smaller pieces to try and understand it. Once we understand the pieces, though, there's a major component missing from modern conventional medicine in that they never put the pieces back together into a holistic whole. And there's several problems with that model. One is, if you don't put the pieces back together, you don't find all the other connections that aren't obvious at the first pass when you've reduced each piece down to its core building blocks. There are other more complex interactions. And that's the difference between 100 different musical instruments, each playing scales, and the conductor who walks in and goes, and you have a symphony. There's a higher level intent and system of logic in the symphony than there is in 100 different musical instruments warming up, doing their scales down in the orchestra pit. So that's the big flaw, one of several in modern medicine. They never put it back together. So if we really want to understand the universe, we break it down. There's a certain amount of value in the philosophy of reductionism, but the opposite end of the spectrum is something called holism, wherein the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. That's one of the core philosophies of natural holistic medicine, is we recognize that when you do that model, then you get right back into this concept of the subtle energies, chi, the prana, etc. When I was back in my engineering days, I became a specialist in control systems, controlling satellites remotely and independently, autonomous. Different sensors to know where it was pointing in the universe. It could detect the sun, it could detect the moon, it could detect the earth, it could detect stars, and accurately point, keep its batteries charged. Knowing where the satellite body was, it could compute where it was supposed to point the antenna and automatically track a spacecraft that it was relaying data from, for instance. So when I went into medicine, I became a control systems engineer. My specialties were the endocrine system, which is one of the body's control systems, the slow version. Some with the neurological system. I mean, everybody has to know something. It wasn't my specialty. But what did become my specialty was the body's energy system. The meridians, the chakras, the chi, the prana. Which there's another control layer there. And that one is virtually entirely missed by the conventional scientific world. So if we're going to sit down and you're going to create your own universe, and by create your own universe, I'm referring to you taking control of your life to the extent that you first and foremost accept responsibility for your life. Secondly, that you take responsibility to find and fulfill your true will. If you don't like your life situation, change it. Some of us allowed ourselves to get stuck in bad marriages or bad jobs, and some make a conscious choice never to leave them. Some of us figured it out eventually. It took us a while, but we did it. I can't tell you how many times when I was younger, and by younger I don't just mean yesterday, where I tried to have conversations with people about this really strong notion I had in the back of my head that I was supposed to be doing something important. I had no clue what that was. The first conversations I had about that were probably in my teens. I know I had that conversation, or tried to, when I was in college, when I was in my 20s, in my 30s. And it wasn't until I was in my 40s and got out of my practice marriage that I finally found people who could talk the same language. And now I'm on a path to hopefully be fulfilling my true will. And that's what we all are here for, right? So you want to create a universe? Start with the one you're living in. Down to 10% battery remaining. We might make it to 8 o'clock. Sorry, we might. If not, then everybody on Facebook is warned you'll have to switch over to YouTube. So I would kind of like to reiterate that challenge from last year and pick your 10 things that you want to change. It doesn't have to be nationwide, worldwide things. As fun as that would be, I don't know if there's enough clubs to go hit the right people for that one. But sometimes I'd like to try. Pick the 10 things in your life that need changed the most, or that you would like to upgrade the most. Maybe it's where you live. Maybe it's the job, whatever you do to bring in money. It's your universe. Everything's open. So when you do that, you hate your job, you hate your boss. You need a new job, you need a new boss. There's a lot of ways of solving that. And when you've written your plan down, because if you don't write it, it's just gone like the incense smoke in the wind. Gone with the wind. Wow, what a classic catchphrase. Gone with the wind. I could write a book, call it Gone with the Wind. Think that would sell? Maybe we could make it into a Hollywood movie. Nah, they'll never buy it. Oh, I was going to grab that other book. See, I make these notes ahead of time, and to give you an example, reductionism and holism. Everybody has heard of airplanes, right? These are machines that fly through the sky. They take people and cargo places. Does everybody know here in modern times, meaning the last 120 years or so, who invented the first powered airplane, the heavier than aircraft, to achieve powered flight? Let's ask the studio or the online audience. Who knows who invented the first airplane? To me it seems obvious, but hey.
I'm gonna check on Facebook.
Anybody else come online?
No. William says the Wright brothers.
The Wright brothers. That was the right answer. Ding, ding, ding.
Oh, Aaron says Leonardo da Vinci, and so Aaron's online as well.
Aaron's online as well. I said modern Aaron. Modern of the last 120 years. He designed one, but he never built it. That's the difference.
Viento says Muhammad Ali.
Well, he certainly could swing his arms like a helicopter blade and wail on his opponents, let me tell you. So, Aaron gets one ding.
I would have said something, but I thought it was a trick question.
That would have been a coyote question if it were a trick question. It's like, who invented and built the first
No,
airplane?
I just figured there was somebody less obvious than the Wright brothers.
Orville and Wilbur Wright, who were bicycle mechanics, who did one very crucial thing when they analyzed the new world they wanted to create. Does anybody know what it was? 5 dings if you get this one right. That enabled them to create the aircraft.
Could you restate the question?
Okay. When they looked at how are we going to make a heavier than air flight, they looked at all the other lame attempts out there where people were building machines that jumped and wings that flapped and all these different things. They did one really crucial piece of analysis that they then implemented in their technology that was the key difference, and we still use it exactly today.
Wing flaps.
No.
They studied birds and.
Yes, and what did they find?
Well, I thought it was the way that the wings shift. So.
You're almost there. You're almost there. That's part of it.
Okay.
They analyzed birds. Anybody online throw anything out?
Will says the engine propeller, which was necessary, but you could still have a glider without an engine.
But then it wouldn't have been powered.
That's true.
Okay, so here it is. This is subtle. You're both getting pieces of it. You and Will. You each get a half a ding.
Half a ding.
When they looked at the birds, they looked at places where there was wind coming over cliffs where they could sit there and be a couple 100 feet up, but then at the level of the birds who were flying right by them. And what they realized was that there were 2 problems to be overcome, and Coyote said something about my battery warning is in the way. Let's see if he gets a dingy dingy.
Coyote says it was Vimana at the beginning of the current era, but not considered modern, who used the first airplane. Okay, so that would be an.
Yeah, in India they had them, in Egypt they had them. Yeah, we're not worried about those. I want to talk about what the Wright brothers did analytically, and what they did was they realized there were 2 problems to be overcome, not one. Everybody else was just looking at flight. What was that finger for?
Will says, he said airport dynamics, aero, lift and drag.
He gets 2.5 dings. What the Wright brothers correctly deduced was there were 2 problems to be overcome. One is lift, the other is thrust.
Thrust, okay. Well, yeah.
So the shape of the wings and the air flowing over that is what produces the lift. And the propeller and the engine produces thrust. And to make the propeller more efficient, the Wright brothers turned the propeller blade into a wing. So it pulled, and it wasn't just like a fan blade that's flat that pushes the air. But it was separating the problem, the lift from the thrust, and coming up with a different technological solution for each. That's what they did, and that's why their airplane worked. I remember reading a report about somebody who went to watch a demonstration. This was maybe 2 years after Kitty Hawk, when they first flew, and they were putting a demonstration of airplanes, and a lot of other people by that time had been trying to copy them to produce planes, and sometimes they could take off, sometimes they couldn't. And then this guy was writing, he'd seen several of the others, and this was his first time going to an exhibition where one of the Wright brothers was flying their plane. And of course, this was several steps beyond their first version at Kitty Hawk. And the guy wrote in an elegant way where he was just shocked and astounded at how easily the plane took off and flew and could maneuver and all these things. He says it makes all the others look, lame by comparison. And yeah, they did figure out the 3-axis control, pitch, roll, and yaw. Every aircraft built today still uses the same flight surfaces that the Wright brothers did, and basically most of the same principles they did. But it was the way they analyzed it. And that's the kind of analysis we have to put into the way we rebuild our universe. Einstein, one of my favorite quotes attributed to him, is, "You don't solve problems with the same level of thinking that created them." So at that point in time, powered flight had been lost so long that nobody believed that it had ever happened before. Well, except for maybe a few people who had read not the Bhagavad Gita. Is it one of the Upanishads? The one that talked about aerial warfare. The great silver bird that flew and dropped the egg that burst with the light of 10,000 suns and destroyed whole cities. Coyote, I'll spit it out here in a minute, I'm sure.
Spit it out.
He's read and memorized all the Upanishads, I'm sure. So there's a famous story.
Mahabharata.
The Mahabharata, that's it. Thank you, Coyote-san. There's a famous story just after World War II ended. There was a British engineer, I think he'd been in the military, was visiting a friend, was in Cairo, Egypt, and visiting a friend who was working at one of the museums in Cairo. And his friend, apparently they'd been to college together, and one was now an engineer and the other was now an archaeologist. And he was visiting his friend in the bowels, in the back rooms, where they have all the stuff stored that's been dug up, but not cataloged and not on display. And he's walking along, and his friend's showing, oh, and over here there's this gold thing, and there's this stone carving, and the engineer sees something, and he picks it up and goes, oh, this is cool. Where'd you find this? What's this doing here? And he's, oh, that's some dynasty, 3,000-year-old model of a butterfly. The engineer looks at us, no, you're not, you're nuts, this is crazy, this is a glider. And he takes 3,000-year-old object, goes, whoosh, flew across the room perfectly straight and level. And then it runs out of gas and comes down. And of course, the archaeologist is freaking out, screaming, that's a valuable object, da, 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 da. And the engineer's like, no, that's an airplane, dude. So they measured it, and they built a model. an exact replica model, and then I think they scaled it up. And they put it in a wind tunnel. And it had really, really solid aerodynamics at the best wind tunnel testing they could do. I think it was roughly the early 1950s. So almost 70, 75 years ago.
Wolfenheimer?
I don't remember his name, but I've got a book in the other room, one of my ancient engineering books. I got 3 or 4 books on anomalous technological finds in history. That was one of my fields of interest when I was getting out of aerospace and into natural healing and shamanism and everything else I'm into these days. So I don't remember the name. If that's it, it could very well be.
Well, that's what Will says, and then Aaron says, I'm pretty sure it's the Upanishads.
Oh, it's the Mahabharata, which may or may not be an Upanishad. I have never yet figured out the whole hierarchy of all the Vedic writings. So I keep waiting for Coyote to publish something for us.
Right.
I'm still waiting on a couple of things from Coyote, come to think of it. He was supposed to put out a chart that would be a supplement to Crowley's book 777 that compares the 32 paths to the Toltec mythological pantheon.
Oh, great.
That's one that he was
Task.
supposed to do last year. So the world is not what it seems. We've had advanced technologies in the past, advanced levels of knowledge, and we keep shooting ourselves in the foot. By we, I mean the human race. We keep it's our attention span. 2 things, attention span, and we keep forgetting our spiritual connection. And I think I've evolved from being a physicist and an engineer into a doctor and into this energy consciousness thing that I'm doing, because this is where humanity is most lacking. Huge portions of the society still don't acknowledge the subtle energies. They don't acknowledge the true nature of spirituality and humanity and consciousness. And they don't realize that if we do this, and by this, it's this I'm talking about tonight, of upgrading our consciousness and working together and putting out a unified design on what is possible for humanity. We are at a crux where we might not go upward and forward. We might go downward and backwards. Again, we still haven't caught up to where we were. Let me get rid of that. 13, 14,000 years ago, when we really took a crash and dive. And we have so much potential. And I don't mean, oh gee, if we all get together, we could figure out how to make those flying machines again. I'm talking about what's on the shelf, our knowledge right now. Just use what we know. So it doesn't have to be, this universe you create for yourself doesn't have to be complicated. You can get together with your friends and create a group and say, yeah, every day, twice a day, 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., let's all meditate on the same thing. Well, 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Pacific time's taken. Right? You can go 7:10 if you want. There is so much possible right now. It's being ignored, hidden, forgotten, whatever you want to call it. All of the above. And it's going to stay that way until you do something about it. And I don't mean the vague, nebulous you out there. I mean you. Have you made a choice that you're going to upgrade the world? There is a sometimes misquoted Chinese adage. The misquoted version says, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. That's not a fully accurate translation. The fully accurate translation is, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the ground beneath your feet. Right there where you're standing right now. And I guarantee you won't make the 1,000 miles if you don't choose to start.
I want to join the school of the misquoted version.
A single step or the ground beneath your feet. Eventually you have to take the single step, but that's not the first step. Right? You're standing here. You first make a decision. Then you take the step. Anything interesting in our online discourse?
Let's see. Still kind of trying to figure out what I'm doing here. Yeah, I'm not seeing the more recent comments on Facebook. I thought you had lost the Facebook connection, but you are still being recorded there. And I gave a link so that people can join us on YouTube if necessary. So, no, we don't have any additional comments since.
Okay. So that's your homework. Is what is your intent for the new universe you're going to create? God just gave you a blank sheet of paper and a pencil and said, what do you want? Write it down. I literally did that meditation, and that's literally what I was told to do. I'm still writing, by the way. It's like, what was that, 2 or 3 years ago, I was given this paper, I was assigned a paper, and I still haven't turned it in. So when this virus situation is less volatile, and you get back to your work, and I mean work with a capital W, not your burger flipping, pizza vending job, you're going to realize that there's not a whole lot has changed because of this viral situation. You're still here in your physical body to To use the EJ analogy, you're still Redfin in the fish tank. A slightly upgraded version of where Redfin was, perhaps. But you're still here in your biological machine, in the dense physical plane, and you're supposed to be doing something, and you still have to figure out what that is. And the first part of that is to figure out how to figure out what it is. You need tools, you need skills, and so that's your job. Figure out how to figure out. If you're serious about creating your universe, about whatever it is, achieving whatever it is that spiritual writers have been talking about for many, many millennia, whether it's called attainment or liberation or ascension or enlightenment or fill in the blank term implying the attainment of a state of consciousness above and beyond that of a normal human. If you're serious about that, then that has to be your full-time job. This is where, I can't remember if it was earlier this year or late last year, I was talking about that concept of constantly analyzing yourself to know what you're thinking and why you're thinking it. Moment by moment throughout the day, am I on track? Well, how do you know if you're on track? That means you have to know what the track was intended to be. And the way you keep on track is through your attention. And developing all your skills, pushing yourself. This is a cauldron you're in. And when you start this work, you can expect there to be surprises. And you say, oh my goodness sakes alive. All those people who said this was going to be hard work and challenging and I'm going to feel like I'm in a furnace, they were right. I'm going to feel agitation. I'm going to feel, from time to time, a little bit uncomfortable. But not very often, probably. Just a little. But yeah, you've got to go through that. There's a lot of skills and tools out there that you can collect. The great martial artist Bruce Lee once said, absorb what is useful. Nobody can possibly use all of them all of the time. No one, as much as we would like to, can be an expert on everything. So absorb what is useful, and you'll know that the more you try to connect with what your real job is, what your real true purpose is. If your true purpose is to be a rocket scientist, and you allow yourself to get diverted to be a doctor and a shaman, then you're really screwed up early in life. But if you thought you were supposed to be a rocket scientist and you get in there with all the other rocket scientists and find out These guys are all idiots, and not a single one of them has a clue about the law of physics. And they really don't seem to be interested in launching rockets and exploring the universe and boldly going where no one has gone before. And they keep flunking, literally, freshman level high school math that crashes their spacecraft into Mars. I wish that were a made up story, but it's not. Go research the spacecraft, the Mars Observer, and it crashed into Mars because somebody didn't convert correctly between English units and metric units, which is what we learn in high school. Those were NASA rocket scientists. So when you get in that kind of environment, you go, I don't think I'm supposed to be here anymore. And so you move on. You learned what you could, you absorbed what was useful, and you moved on. And that process needs to start right now where you're at, that ground beneath your feet. You need to assess your situation. Are you successful at finding and fulfilling your true will? If you're going, true will? It's like, yeah, I have to, the bearer of evil tidings, to quote the name of the Robert Frost poem. Yeah, you have a job here you're supposed to be doing. You agreed before you came. Got it? Yeah. The bearer of evil tidings, when he was halfway there, remembered that evil tidings were a dangerous thing to bear. It's the only poem Robert Frost ever wrote that wasn't set in New England. It was set in the Himalaya Mountains. So some evil king had lost the Civil War, and the messenger who was running to tell him, hey, your army was just defeated, so you better get out of Dodge, remembers that bearing evil tidings to this king can sometimes be dangerous. So he took off to the mountains and hid. He found some people there that were doing the same thing. And he meets a girl and he decides to stay. And as for the evil king's evil tidings that he was overhearing, he'll find out soon enough. You have to stand where you are, look at the universe, and decide what direction you're going to go. If you don't proactively choose a course of action, it will be chosen for you by some kind of a default. Step one is your intent. What is it you desire to create for your life, your universe? I can't tell you that. Gloria Luce here can't tell you that. You have to decide. Any questions? Any funny comments?
Well, we've annihilated a troll on the Facebook site.
Oh, really?
Yes. And,
Oh, darn, I missed it.
yeah.
What was the troll saying?
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Oh, okay.
I know who it was, so.
Okay.
Okay. I think Coyote has a joke. It's something about a rocket scientist, a farmer, and a shaman walking to a bar. The bartender says, "Is it just you today, Golden Eagle?"
No, I'm usually there with my author friend. Yeah. But no, that's a good one. I like that. Thank you. I may quote you. If anybody wants to know more about the history of aviation, there's one book and it has lots of pictures. I don't remember the author's name off the top of my head, but the book is called The Leading Edges. I have it, it's in the other room. And the author was, I think, the director of the National Air and Space Museum, that part of the Smithsonian, for many, many years. So he had access to all the cool stuff. And that book captures the history of aviation as a whole in ways that are just incredible, the way it was written.
Does it have to do with engineering and performance and?
Yeah, you could say it was all about aviation. Okay, my phone
aviation.
just died for those of you.
Okay.
Yeah. Aviation. So anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
phone's dead. So those of you who were on Facebook, that solved the troll problem on Facebook.
Right.
No questions or comments? I'm telling you the secret to redesigning your universe, and nobody has a question or a comment. Okay. Well, that means you've all got it. The explanation was clear and perfect, and you're all going to be ready as soon as we end the discussion here in a moment or two to run off and design your universe. Congratulations. Nothing? Okay. Then we will go ahead and stop here. And your homework is to design a universe. Do good, avoid evil. Well, at least somebody knew the orbital and Wilbur Wright thing.
We're not on.
Oh, okay.